Why did you come out in this?
I don't know. It was a bad idea. I didn't think it was this bad.
It's really, really bad.
Slow down and take your time.
Or don't drive at all.
Now, the question is, will we see images like that this winter, like we did back in 2010 during the Weather Channel's coverage of Snowmageddon, or will we see images more like what we've been seeing the past 2 winters during our virtual snow drought? Now, to answer this question, we must start looking globally. The first place I'm going to take you to is the North Pole, and to look at an event that's becoming more frequent over the past 15 years. This event is known as sudden stratospheric warming, and what that is when mild air settles over the North Pole, pushing Arctic air into Canada and the northern United States. Now, this happened this past January when we saw a string of 5 days below average, which allowed a snowstorm to impact the area, dropping at least 5 inches of snow across the region. We're going to stay in the north, but this time we're going to look at the global snow cover so far this year. Right now, the majority of the snow is currently in Russia and in Canada. Now, we are looking at a lot of snow in these areas, and that could translate to an above-average snow season here in the Mid-Atlantic. The next place I'm going to take you to is the Equatorial Pacific, or the waters right off of the coast of South America. Right now, the El Niño Southern Oscillation is setting up in a neutral state. That means that we're not going to be looking at an influence from La Nina, which is what we'd set up if we were looking at below average water temperatures, or an El Nino, what would set up if we were looking at above average water temperatures. This neutral state does make it a little bit tricky to forecast what the upper air patterns will be setting up to be later on this winter season. Now, the next piece of information we're going to look at for this winter outlook is the NAO, or the North Atlantic Oscillation, and the AO, the Atlantic Oscillation. It looks like both of these will be positive to start, which means that we're going to be looking at more cold air on up towards the north of the jet stream and milder air down here in southern Maryland. As a high pressure system sets up over the North Atlantic, we will be looking at more rainstorms to impact the areas, then snowstorms, and an increased likelihood of an ice storm. Now, as we head later into the winter season, we're going to look more at negative NAO patterns to be setting up, which means colder air and more snowstorms. Now, these patterns will change a lot, so we'll continue to keep you updated on the latest state that both of those are in and how it's going to impact your 7-day forecast. Now, these are going to be your headlines for this winter. It does appear that we will be milder to start, even though we've had a pretty cool fall, and then we're going to have a cooler end, and that could be in part due to a changing phase between the positive North Atlantic Oscillation and the negative North Atlantic Oscillation, and we will also be looking at the possibility for sudden stratospheric warming. And we're also going to be in that winter battle zone when the NAO shifts from positive to negative, which means that we could be looking at more ice storms this year. And this pattern will be changing a lot, so you're going to want to keep up to date on your latest forecast right here from the JB Weather Center. Now, last but certainly not least, the all-important snow outlook for this winter. Here's what I'm thinking in terms of snow totals by the time all is said and done by April 1st. It looks like we do have a low chance to see less than 6 inches of snow this winter, or basically what we've been seeing the past 2 winters. Now, I do think we do have a high chance to see an around average to a slightly below or slightly above average season, with snowfall totals getting anywhere between 6 to 18 inches. Now, coastal locations will be closer to that 6, while inland areas and areas with elevation will be higher or closer to that 18-inch point. Now, the average amount of snowfall we typically see is 12 to 14 inches, so again, an average season is expected with a medium chance to see more than 18 inches of snow this winter. Again, that chance does exist to see an ice storm as we head into December and January, but again, we'll continue to watch that, monitor all the global effects, and again, what's going to be tracking into your 7-day forecast. Have a nice and safe one, and we'll have another updated outlook by the time we get into late January.